And it is on.
It's on like Donkey Kong. I'm Lee Scott.
Uh, Kevin Scott. Hello.
It's like you make me edit every show. You make me edit. I don't want to.
I got to give you something to do.
Welcome to Uncarcerated. You can watch us on YouTube. Of course, you can listen to the show on Spotify, iTunes, wherever podcasts are found. We are the show that takes deep dives into people's personal journty in and out of incarceration. Was that tight? Did I keep it tight there?
Super tight.
Tight five.
Super tight.
Tight five.
Tight four. Well done.
We've got a good buddy of mine coming on the show in just a few minutes, but we wanted to sort of catch you up. We haven't been on for like a month. A lot of stuff has been happening in our personal lives and just in the world of prison reform in general.
Yeah.
We're not going to do too deep of a dive, but we want to touch on sort of like what's been going on. There's a sound check, by the way, going on.
This bodes well.
Yeah. So we do the show from inside the WGOT studio, which is inside the Civic Media Center, who we love. We love everybody that does stuff there. And so if you hear anything on this show, it's because we're kind of going rogue and doing it on a different night. So there's some like bands playing and who knows what's going on.
We'll see. A couple updates from the world of shit. There's a couple things. So we've talked about it before a little bit, but there seems to be a little enthusiasm about air conditioning not being present in Florida prisons. So there's been like a little bit of like some politicians kind of making some noise about it, some advocacy organizations also making some noise about it. Whether that yields a result, we'll see, but that's been going on here in Florida. And
it's brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah, I mean, there's no air conditioning in Florida state prisons. That should be known.
I am shocked at how many people don't know that. When I tell people that there's not AC in prison, they're like, "What? Wait, what?"
Yeah. I mean, so it's hot everywhere.
Right.
In Florida, it's extra hot as advertised, and so you're living in a building with no air conditioning. It's absolutely brutal. And the other thing that's been going on, and like you said, we could like talk about any of these topics at length.
And will.
Yeah.
Not now.
But the other big thing is that they're, this is amazing.
Do not get distracted by it.
The other thing is that they are suggesting visitations being limited, like cut in half in terms of availability of people receiving visitors, which we know from a zillion points of research even that the success rate of people that have strong connections and get visits is much higher than people that don't have visits. So basically it's just it's almost like self-defeating or like sabotaging people by limiting their contact with their loved ones. This can only like lead to greater problems basically. So anyway, that's being discussed. There's a lot of ins and outs to that about the specific things that they are proposing, but
let's make stuff on people harder on people's families.
Kind of, yeah. It's going to limit people's contact and like connection with their support network. So it's going to make their time inside harder. It's going to make their time home harder. There's 100 reasons why it's a bad idea. Nevertheless, that's being discussed again. This has happened before. It's come up again. They seem pretty determined to make this pass, whether it's now or in the future. It seems like.
What are they citing, Kevin? Is it Tucci? Is it security?
Yeah, security and staffing are the 2 points I've heard, like that it's contraband coming in through visitation, which we know is not the majority by a long shot, and then also staffing, just lack of resources to man those things. So anyway, that's what's going on in the local shit news.
Thanks, Kev. All right, so tonight on the show, this is one of those episodes where man, I look really tan. I was out on the river today. I just saw myself in the reflection there.
I also look really tan.
You are the ghost rider over here. This is one of those episodes where we're going to get to take a deep dive, and you, the listener, are going to be able to find out in real time, just like we are, about someone. Because I know a little bit about Brandon, and what I know, I like. This is someone who, while incarcerated, took the extra time to come to a group that I was involved in, and always was so candid and honest and opened up. It didn't start off that way. It started off like, this dude was not on that fuck shit, and why are you asking me these dumbass questions? And then
not the fuck shit,
right? And then a few more times, Brandon kept coming, and I was able to learn a little bit about his life, and he's overcome a lot. He's super interesting, and I'm hoping that he is as candid and open here with us as he was in those groups. So without further ado, Brandon. Hopefully this works.
It's gonna work.
Yeah.
That's my cue to turn on the
There you go.
Perfect.
Yeah. Hey, bud, how you been?
Hello. I'm doing well. How are you guys?
All
Good.
right.
So I think the place to start is how long have you been home for?
Yeah.
I have been home for a little over a year and a half now.
And where are you? Just for the listener, just to give some where are you located?
Well, if you just look on the map and find that real big piece of pile of shit, and Evansville's right in the middle.
It's two Evansville
what-
shows in a row.
Oh
So,
yeah, we're giving
right.
Indiana so
Yeah.
much love.
So I don't actually live in Evansville, but I live actually in a different county, but it's attached to Evansville. So yeah, it's Evansville.
Okay. So and just to kind of start there, how long this bid that you did, how long were you gone for?
4 years.
4 years. All right. So did you grow up in Evansville? Is that sort of like
Well,
Major Bones?
so actually the county that I live in now is Warwick County. I live in Newburgh, which is like the fancy part of Evansville, I guess. But so I grew up in Warwick County where I live now, but in the country. You know, my mom and my dad divorced early when I was 4 or 5. My brother and we went to live with my mom. That worked for a few years until, you know, my mom and dad decided that they would both rather just have one child apiece and not pay child support. So my brother went to live with my dad. I lived with my mom. Occasionally he would come over, but I would go over there every other weekend. And that's how I grew up.
Did that have an effect on you as a kid? Like looking back, I mean,
Oh yeah.
did
Yeah,
you know it
for
then,
sure.
or did like later on you got reflective and you're like, oh, that kind of
Yeah, it's like, you know, probably in prison when I did most of my good thinking.
yeah.
But, you know, I think back and it's like, my mom worked hard. You know, she left before I left for school and she got back, you know, after it was dark, and it was just her and me. So I had a lot of responsibilities on me, which, you know, ultimately I failed because I was a child.
Were you and
So
your brother tight before you split up?
yeah, and we were even after we split up, but it was more so him then being allowed to do, you know, nefarious things that teenagers want to do because my dad let him. And then here I am, like, my brother's so cool, I want to do that, you know.
So your mom, that's interesting. Your mom was like a little bit more of a disciplinarian than your dad was.
Yes.
It was the
Dad
opposite,
was like,
the opposite in my house.
yeah, dad would like make a big show of the discipline when he was able to, you know, catch the activities, but you know, he was working a lot too, so he didn't see a lot of them.
So
You know.
growing up in that area of Indiana, what would a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, I would assume that's when you jumped off the porch. What would you be getting into around there? What kind of stuff was going on?
So, you know, most of my life, teenager, I mean, I lived on a very large piece of property out in the middle of the country with a lake on the front yard. So I did a lot of fishing. I would try to get people to come over, but I literally lived on the edge of the county, as far as you can away from everyone that I went to school with. So they're like, we can't even get out there. You know, my parents won't even drive us out there. And that's when gas was $1.12. But, you know, so it was a lot of me being alone and trying to figure stuff out. And that's when I found the blessing, which is rap music and the music videos. So that was the big influence when I was a teenager. I wanted to.
I don't know how old you are really, Brandon. I have a guess, but like, what were you listening to? What'd you grow up on? Tupac. Yep. Thug Life.
Tupac.
There it goes. Yep. Thug Life.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
So,
So
oh, go ahead,
I
Kev.
was gonna say, like, you know what, I'm thinking, like, you know, what age was it when things like really started getting like serious, like when you started like interacting with handcuffs, like when did that start showing up?
so that, you know, when I was young, when I was probably 17, I did get caught trying to break into a car by the police with my friend. And, you know, they just took us to the jail and they called my mom and she said, and they were like, hey, we need you to come get your son. You know, he's down here. He was trying to break into a car. And she's like, no, my boy's in the bedroom sleeping. She hung up on the police.
Wow.
And they had to call her back and tell her, like, I was really down there. Well, that was the only instance where I ever got in
Wait,
trouble.
did you have the Ferris Bueller thing with like the fan and the fake pillows?
Well, it wasn't that elaborate, but I did have like those folding chairs.
Yeah.
I had one of those folded up and like put under the blanket so it
Hell
looked
yeah.
like my feet were. Yeah, I did a little something.
Well done. Yeah.
But anyway, she came to get me, and then that was about it. I never really got into much trouble. I smoked some pot, drank a little bit, but I really never have been a drinker. But joined the military, left, went around the world, did 6 years in the military, got out, went to school for aviation down in Florida, Clearwater, National Aviation Academy. And then I moved back to Indiana, and, I was on painkillers and Xanax for the PTSD, supposedly from the military. She's convinced that I have PTSD, but it's just hard to realize yourself.
Yeah.
I think is the one thing about it. But anyway, I had Xanax, painkillers, amazing cocktail. For quite a few years, I was able to have my own business, also had a job on the side, was able to take care of all that and everything. But, after a little while, the pain pills got more important than the Xanax. And then the pain pills stopped working as well. I started talking to my doctor. He's like, "You're a vet. What do you want?" So it was that was the horrible decision on his part. He just, I mean, he had his pad, like, taking notes. Well, what is it that you like? Basically. So he would coach me into, well, if you're having this happen, you could get this or this. But if you say this, so he like coached me through everything. And I just got more and more and heavier and stronger. And it overtook my life. I ended up becoming a needle junkie. I started banging pain pills. As a junkie, you don't realize you're a junkie and you think you have standards if you're a pain pill shooter, because you're like, I don't do that street drugs. I just shoot pain.
Yeah.
But after all the money runs out, there's no more pain pills left, and you have to go to those street stuff. So, that's when you realize I'm a junkie.
Yeah.
And it's a hard pill to swallow. It really is. So my drug abuse and use relationship, whatever you'd like to call it, was about 6 years long. I was already 30 before I'd ever, got addicted to drugs. So it was later, in life for me. And then it would almost, I think, made it worse because, I lost everything that I've been building my entire life. I lost a lot of sentimental stuff, just running the streets. I don't have any of my military medals, paperwork, none of that.
Yeah.
Stolen or, given away or whatever.
Yeah, my girlfriend was going through a family photo album last night, and her parents are not divorced. And so that was a big difference there. Also, she's never been to prison. So another huge difference. So she's got two family photo albums that are this big, and it made me really sad that, like, I don't have one picture of myself, my brother, my sister. I barely have any pictures of my own children. And now I've lost my daughter, and I would love to have that stuff back. And it's just, I've just lost all of it. And so when you watch someone else be able to like reflect and go through their whole lives, it's not just pictures. It's a piece of you is gone,
Yeah, that's true. I just remember this box of pictures that I had because I spent 2 years in Korea and I loved it. It was amazing. And I had just turned 20. So, everything was amazing and cool and new and fresh. And I had a bunch of pictures and I have no idea where they went. That's one of the things that I'll never be able to get back, but I wish I could. But
so when you obviously you started like abusing the prescription pills, which led to street drugs. How long did it take before like you started having some like legal consequences behind all that?
Well, the legal consequences came almost immediately, honestly. As soon as I was still eating the pain pills, the legal troubles started mounting up. I'd get a speeding ticket. I don't have the money to pay a speeding ticket. I got to buy pain pills. Got my license suspended. So since I've been home from prison, I've actually gotten my license back, and it's a huge hurdle because I haven't had them for probably 15 years, honestly. I mean, I've been driving, but I haven't had a license.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. But the legal troubles, yeah, they start almost immediately, you know, because it's the irresponsibility of your finances that ultimately like run us into the police.
Yeah, I mean, we've criminalized being poor in this country for sure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. I mean, it is against the law to be poor or even substandard these days.
Right.
It's how you're treated.
Yeah, and like you said, like when that addiction is so screaming hot and loud, that's the priority. That's where the money's going to go first. I've experienced that myself. I understand.
Yeah. I remember in one instance, you know, so most of my, until I went to prison, we'll get to that, but most of my jail times were short, you know, 30 days, 45 days, something like that. And I remember I was strung out and they sent me to jail. I got arrested for trespassing or something. A friend and I were graffitiing a hotel roof for whatever reason. And so we got arrested and you know, I got about 3 hours until I'm deathly sick. So this woman came to see me and she's like, "Hey, Mr. Wilkinson, I have great news for you." I was like, "What's that?" She said, "Well, if you decide that you'd like to do 2 years of you know, adult drug probation, then we can get you out today." And I was like, "You know what? It's time to change my life." And she gave me that, and I took off and I overdosed an hour after I left.
I've heard that story so many times of you know, I watched someone overdose just a couple weeks ago and had to Narcan them, and they came out and immediately ran away. And you know, the emergency personnel was there. We had to chase them down because like that's the first thing that people will go do when they come out of jail or come out of an overdose or come whatever is use, and they think that they can use what they were using before, and that's the danger zone. That's awful. Well, you know, I mean, I guess, you know, like the people that I know that had addiction problems in the late 90s, early 2000s almost got spared from what's going on now, you know?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like Russian. I mean, it's always Russian roulette. It's always dangerous. It's always unhealthy.
It's just more dangerous now.
It's just unbelievably, you don't even know what you're getting half the time now. So, yeah. So these little stints obviously didn't deter you. And I often think of the criminal justice system as kind of like the La Brea tar pit. You know, you get a little bit on you and then you got it here and then you got it here, right? You just can't, once you're in it, you can't get out of it. So now you're on this drug offender probation. There's no way that you're passing what they're asking you.
Oh, no. I'm not on it.
Oh.
No, I ran. Like as soon as they let me out the door,
you picked up on that? I didn't. Okay, you ran. Okay, yeah.
That's what I told her. I was like, "Oh yeah, at least it's time to change my life." And she let me out the door, and I was out.
This motherfucker booked it.
You know, because by the time she let me out the door, I was already, you know, detoxing. I was ready to go. But that was, you know, one instance where I just wasn't realizing what was going on. You know, essentially I was homeless for about 3 years there. I never, at the time, I never thought I was homeless, and I would have never even claimed to be homeless or tried to, you know, act homeless. I was always nice and clean. I took a shower, but that's because the gym membership that I had that they didn't turn off had a shower. So I went there every day, took a shower, acted like I worked out, you know, used their shampoo and soap and underarm deodorant, and I got out there.
So like it sounds like there was a big part of your life that was like this like almost dual life you were living. Like I can present one way, little do you know this is what's going on over here. Do you think that there was like some psychological stuff going on there with like, I mean, obviously like not wanting to see what the big picture was, not wanting to see how bad it was. Like, did you know that like you had these two lives you were living, or was it just like, hey, I can pass for, because I know that Kevin and I have been able to relate to that before, you know, like I presented well And then next thing you know, I'm in jail, and people are like, what's
Yeah,
I
Yeah,
thought
what
he was doing
yeah,
fine.
what
And I was
happened?
like, no, I
We
wasn't
didn't
doing
see that
fine.
coming. That's
Yeah.
what everyone said when this happened. Um, so so I had 6 years of solid, just pure and unadulterated hell through my addiction. I decided one day that I'd like to get clean. The only place that I know to do that is my dad's house. So I went to his house and I stayed there for about 2 weeks, trying to get clean. And I started feeling, myself again. But life was awkward. Like I didn't know how to deal with life. I didn't know how to sit still for 20 minutes and just enjoy it. I couldn't do it. So I took off and got high. And that was it. To this day, I tell my significant other all the time that my mom and dad, they gave up on me because they thought I was going to die. I mean, it was self-preservation for them. Even though I'm here now and I'm doing well, they have lost a piece of me that they can't get back. So our relationship is struggles to this day.
I know, like, so during that time, obviously this is before you ended up going to prison, but it sounds like jail showed up. You tried going to your dad's, like you were trying like some other things. In
Yeah,
hindsight now,
everything.
like looking back, like what do you think? Like, what did you really need? Obviously, you weren't not what you were getting in jail. What would have made the difference? What was actually the missing piece? What would have benefited you then?
Well, I think the missing piece would be connection because I felt absolutely alone. I had people that I saw every day that I used with, that I was friends with, that would help. We would team up and go try to find drugs or whatever, but it's lonely. It's a lonely existence. You're by yourself and, there's a ticking clock on your head. You're dying. It's just a matter of time. So that really negates any enjoyment of anything ever. You don't enjoy anything and it gets exhausting. So you either die or you come back from it somehow. Mine was the threat of prison at first. So I originally caught these charges. I got caught with LSD, a gun, meth, scales, and some heroin. On the driver on a suspended license in a car that I had no idea whose it was. So, I go to jail for about 8 months, and they say, "Hey, listen, we're going to give you 6 years DOC. We're going to suspend all of it if you go do drug court for 2 years." And I thought, yeah, I mean, I don't want to do 6 years in prison. Who does? Nobody's going to do that. Yeah, let me sign the papers. But at this point in time, I'd been in jail for 7 months, and I think it's almost beginning to be the longest stretch, and I'm actually beginning to feel human again. So even though it may take 14 days, it takes 7 months of your brain to even realize you're still alive. So they gave me the opportunity. I got out on drug court. I was doing well for about 6 or 8 months. And then, I thought all the stuff that I've destroyed over these past 6 years, I need to rebuild, and it's time to start rebuilding. But, the old me was like, I know a way you can rebuild it faster. And so I started selling LSD, and somebody told on me. So drug court showed up and found a bunch of money in LSD, and they were like, you got the 6 years and you're getting some more. So they ended up giving me another 18 months on top of the 6 years, which with time served and then doing time, I left after that to go to prison for 4 years. I did 4 years and like 12 days off of a 6-year sentence.
I want to, before we get into the actual prison experience and then coming home, I want to backtrack to what you said about connection, because I don't want us to just glance over that, because I think that's like really poignant. Yeah. And it sounds to me like there was a theme of loneliness that had been there since childhood. I mean, getting split up from your brother, getting split up with your parents, being out in a place where your friends really couldn't come to, out in the woods. And then you join the military, which from everything that all my friends that have joined, that's a pretty lonely experience. I mean, you're around 300 other dudes, but it's pretty lonely. You're pretty much by yourself. It's like a camp of one a lot of the times. Then you come home and you build this little life for yourself, but like it wasn't with intention necessarily. It was sort of like by default. And then when you start using, you lose all of it. So where it's not like you had a group, a family, a group of friends that you could like a network of people that would be like support you through this. So it sounds to me like this theme of loneliness had just run through your life for a long time.
Yeah. I think that it took me a while to even realize part of that, you bringing up everything that we talked about previously, that actually is revealing to me. I never thought about it that far back, but yeah, I mean, it is an ongoing theme, or had been for a while. My life did change, and what changed before you go in was that I met my wife. I actually met her in between getting released on drug court and going back to prison, or going to prison.
Yeah.
So that was the meaningful connection that honestly probably set me on the right path.
Yeah.
And then prison, drug me away from her, and then, really sit me down and made me think about my life.
Can you talk about what your prison experience was like? Like, what does from going to the reception center to your camp and sort of like the culture that you were involved in, like what was that like? Did you feel lonely there? Did you find people there? Like, what was your experience?
So, obviously, first starting out, it is lonely. It's lonely. It's scary, and it's unknown. And that there's violence around every corner. So, I mean, going in, I'm scared. I was scared. I went to the reception center. That was shocking. They're like, get naked. And there's like 15 people standing there, like, right here. Like, she's standing right there.
Yeah.
Take your clothes off or we're going to tase you. I mean, so they, you get stripped of all your clothes, all your anything. And they give you an outfit that doesn't fit, underwear that don't fit. I'm a small guy. Nothing fit. It was 4 sizes too big. And then socks that look like, the Jolly Green Giant. Just took them off. But then you're stuck into a room 23 hours a day with somebody else you don't know from somewhere across the state that did God knows what, probably drugs, But and then that's it.
Yeah, the reception center in Indiana, by the way, is a 23-hour a day lockdown facility in 2-man cells. And you do that, you're supposed to do it for 30 days till they send you your camp, but there's people in there for months waiting.
Yeah, mine was a little over 2 months probably. Yeah. And that was probably the roughest time altogether because of the lack of communication between Kendra and I. Yeah. We were able to write letters, but by the time I got a letter from her 7 days later, like that's archaic.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean, yeah. That's 2 years ago. That's 7 days. So we don't know what's going on. We're answering letters that are who knows how old in letters that we send in today. So it was just a catastrophe.
Did you do the thing where you were like, you didn't answer that question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything. Yeah. But I honestly say that through all that, we were able to find some positive in it. We were able to connect on a deeper level than I think we would have if we were right next to one another. Right. So that worked out actually in my benefit. I don't want to give the prison system anything, but that actually worked out in our benefit, But that's what we try to take from it.
As you were like kind of looking for a connection, it sounds like you and your wife obviously had like very like deepening connection. But did you find like other people, like other guys inside during the time that you like?
So I did. I found Lee, which some people may not be so excited about that.
Yeah. But that's a sentence unto itself.
So the guy that you had on last from Evansville, that's a friend of mine, John Schaefer. So I met John a handful of times. when him and I were both strung out.
Hmm.
And so, I knew of him when I landed in Branchville. I saw a familiar face. I'm like, hey. So we kind of talked and found out that we were a lot alike. I don't ever think that it's okay to call yourself intelligent, but I like to think I'm intelligent.
Yeah.
And I know John definitely is.
Yeah.
You two are. So that's what I try to do, is surround myself with intelligent people in a place where it's hard to do.
Hmm.
You have to find some type of positivity and benefit from it. I think the prison system isn't all the way flawed, but it is flawed deeply. But I was at a point in my life where I actually wanted to change.
Like literally banging on the wall.
The band is about to start.
Oh, okay.
It's a bass drum.
That's right.
Oh
Yeah.
shit. Oh shit. Okay.
So yeah, well, there's a band playing out behind it.
About to be.
So did you do what's known in Indiana as purposeful incarceration, where they're like, hey, go do this program and then you can get out early? Did you do that program? Or
So my lawyer told me about it, and he was like, hey, if during sentencing, if we ask the judge, he'll sentence you to it. He does everybody. And so during sentencing, he said, Judge, we would like to see if we could get purposeful incarceration added to the sentencing, and the judge says, no, if I wanted him to get out early, I'd have sentenced him to less time. So I did not get sentenced to it. However, once I got to Branchville, there's only a handful of programs that you're allowed to, even participate in. So that's the first one I signed up for, and I waited. John was sentenced to it. He got right in. Well, he doesn't think he got right in, but in my term, he got right in.
Right.
I waited about.
Time's really relative in there,
Yeah.
right? You're like, man, I got a short time, and the guy's like, I got 28 years.
Yeah. It gets so soupy. Yeah, it gets so weird in that. Yep.
But
So-
yeah, he got in, and so I was able to do the program and actually get a time cut for it. But I also had to participate in other programs to get time cuts in order to come home at 4 years.
So, I mean, as you're getting farther along in your sentence, you're about to be going home. Had you done any sort of obviously you have support and like your loved one there, at least one.
Yes.
But had you done any sort of like preparation or thought of like how am I going to transition home? How is this going to be? Was there any sort of systemic support for that, or were you sort of left to figure it out on your own?
So I'm naturally like inquisitive, and I like researching and finding things out on my own. So I'm trying to do this with extremely limited resources in prison. I'm trying to figure out things that I need to do when I get home. I went up to the library and I typed up a list, goals, things. I had a 6-month plan, a 1-year plan, a 2-year plan, and I had all these things ready. And I had, all this stuff that I wanted to do when I got out. And as soon as I got out, I kept looking at this list and like banging stuff away. I had a job opportunity presented to me before I got out by John. John was like, yeah, I got a job for you as soon as you get out. I got out on a Wednesday, and Thursday morning I'm working with John.
Damn.
So, I was really lucky in that aspect to even have a friend that just, held a job opening for me. But also I was ready to get to work, ready to just move into this next phase and see how the chips fall.
I've noticed this like difference between guys who go to prison in their 30s, where they maybe have already had a family or a career, or at the very least they knew who they were, and the people that go that are younger, that don't know who they are, that maybe find out who they are or don't while they're in prison, it becomes much more difficult. If you hadn't known who you were before you went, if you hadn't wanted to pick back up as a guy that had work ethic, creativity, all those things that were inside of you, how difficult would it have been when you came home?
Probably impossible. I mean, I know of one guy that had no resources when he got out, but he was so strong-willed that he's making. I mean, he's doing well. the other 25 people that I know with no resources, they're either back in or strung out, or that you need help.
Yeah.
As much as people like to be independent, when you get out of prison, you need help.
What are some of the things that people need support with when they come home that maybe they don't? Like if you could wave a magic wand and guy gets out on a Wednesday, what systems could be in place for him to have support and success and not go back?
I think the number one thing is just giving them a purpose. I mean, once I got that job, the job was weed eating, not glorious.
Yeah.
Not even, I never even liked it, not 1 second. But I mean, I was given an opportunity. I'm not gonna say, oh, I'm not gonna weed eat. No, I weed eated for almost 9 months with those guys until I transitioned to a better job. But I think the primary thing is just having a focus, having something to work towards, a direction. A lot of people get out and they're lost. They don't know. And that's why they're like, well, I need to make some money. Let's just go get some dope. I mean, I know how to do this.
Right.
So it's just the pitfall of not having any assistance.
It
Clothing.
sounds like from like a practical point of view, like you had employment, you had like a roof over your head, like those are like huge, like massive boxes to check. That's amazing. I'm wondering, like, you were kind of talking about how like in prison, like we know like there's violence around every corner. It's like it's scary, it's intense. It gets a little easier, obviously, the longer you're in there. You know how to like kind of maintain yourself and all that stuff. But do you have any like, down the road now, you've been away from it for a little while. Like, do you have any like lingering effects, or did you in the beginning have any like sort of like psychological or traumatic stuff, like any sort of like lingering behavioral stuff or emotional things that came up?
You taking showers with your shoes on, dude?
No, definitely not. No, honestly. So the fact that, I was a pretty big disappointment when I went to prison to a lot of family and friends and everyone. So I try to make it a point to put that in the past. I don't bring it up. I don't talk about, oh, when I was in prison, this happened. To me, it's easier to just forget it, to let it be in the past. And to, I don't, not necessarily forget it, but keep it here, keep my lessons, and be the person that I can be today. I do disagree wholeheartedly with the prison system, but I want to tell you guys something. It worked. It worked for me.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hate to give them credit.
Right.
But
I think too, though, like you had been involved in the military has a lot of that routine structure, living with 300 other people.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a revisiting of routine, structure, sobriety, like all of those things. Yeah. Those are things that probably could have been given in a rehab or a long-term facility, or, something else. But I see why it would have worked for you.
Maybe
for
a less stabby environment.
Less stabby.
Yeah, less stabby.
Less rehab, but with knives.
It's a very shank-rich environment I've created here.
So,
Oh.
Did he freeze up on us? He may have
Frozen.
If we lose him, it wouldn't be a bad idea necessarily to cut the show short anyway, since there's like a band
playing about to begin.
To begin.
It's true.
But we were getting close to wrapping it up.
I think so.
Brandon anyway. Yep. So Brandon has been brilliant, by the way, as I thought he would be.
This guy's obviously extremely sharp.
Introspective.
Very interesting. I mean, oh, there we go. Now we're back.
Oh my God, we thought we lost the whole thing for a second. I think we need to just cut it short and make sure we save this.
I don't know what happened.
Oh my God, I just had a small heart attack. Let's see if it's, I don't know. We won't know until the whole thing's over.
We'll see.
So,
anyway,
okay.
Anyway, we were just praising you. I don't know if you heard us, but we were saying like how obviously sharp and insightful and introspective you are, and like kudos to you for like finding what you needed in a place that oftentimes doesn't offer what you actually need. So, I mean, I think it's a testimony to a lot of the work that you are willing to do with yourself, which is like really painful. You know, you kind of like,
Yeah.
sounds like you took some like long looks in the mirror type moments while you were in there. And obviously, kudos to you for having like your support there and doing the best with what you've been given on the way out too. It's awesome.
I also want to give you kudos too, Brandon. There's a lot of people who are chameleons, and there's people who adapt well. And one thing I saw from you is you treat everybody the same, no matter who you're talking to. It could be a guy gangbanging or a facilitator or, you know, whoever it is. You treat everybody the exact same way with respect. You carried yourself well. And I always just appreciated your candid honesty. And that's why I look forward to having you here. So I'm really glad to see you healthy and doing well. And
Thank you. So if you haven't noticed, I've had an update since I saw you last. So like I said, you know, my drug addiction was very deep. Copious would be the proper word for it. And in that respect, pretty much I ruined all this.
Yeah.
It was just destroyed.
It looks great.
It looks great now.
Yeah.
$23,000 later.
Yeah.
Oh, they got it all.
So, yeah. So that's a big step for me, was to be able to do this. Be able to, just go in and set it in process and get it done.
That's
awesome. You know, it's implants. They're implants. So
people don't know what a big deal that is for people to be able to like feel good about themselves, smile when they want, eat the food they want.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's huge.
It's a big deal.
I think that's one of the things. One of the first speeches you heard was the one where I was talking about my teeth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did you hear that one?
Yeah.
Where, you know, in short, I was telling him, or in the speech, I was telling everyone that, you know, drug addiction made me not want to smile ever because it ruined my teeth. And so it puts a damper on who you are as a person if you can't smile and you're a smiler. So to be able to smile is a big deal now.
That's awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think so many people don't talk about that and are embarrassed about it and don't ever bring it to light. And I think we see it at the shelter we work at. We see it in Rimshot.
Yep. Man's kicking off.
So that's gonna help.
I think I'm more embarrassed by
That's gonna help a lot of people watching this. So
yeah, thank you for being real about that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Brandon, thanks for sharing.
I was trying to say it's more embarrassing shoving a needle in your arm than showing you guys that.
Yeah, fucking A. Fucking A. That's the quote of the day right there. Yeah, that's awesome.
Dude, thanks for coming on, and hopefully you can come back on maybe next year and let us know how you're doing. Revisit this thing.
Awesome.
Yeah, man. Congrats on everything you've been doing since you've been home and your family. That's awesome, man.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Hopefully,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah, totally. Hopefully this whole thing was not interrupted. Hopefully we're able to save this episode. We won't know.
We'll find out.
We'll find out in a minute.
Either way.
If not, the next one will be completely different.
Yeah, that's right. Here's Carl.
Cool. Awesome. Thanks for watching, everybody. Like, rate, subscribe. All
That's
that
right.
shit.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye.
Here comes the band.